So today, in part 5, we conclude the visit to the Isle of Skye. Part 4 saw us at Edinbane pottery, so I will show you the map today and I'll just go through the final section of our visit to Skye. We finished at Edinbane pottery, so in part 5 we headed west and we visited a place on the very northwest coast called Trumpan. We retraced our steps back from Trumpan and we came back to Dunvegan Castle, and from Dunvegan we carried up here again and we visited the Coral Beach. Again we retraced our steps back from the Coral Beach and we headed out to the coast and we visited a point called Neist Point, and we saw we'll see the lighthouse there. Again, retracing there's an awful lot of retracing your steps back here. We came back from Neist Point and we headed back down and we stopped at a place called Beag Broch, and from Beag we then headed down and through Carbost, and we will visit the Talisker Distillery. And again we'll retrace our steps back from the Talisker Distillery and we will finish at Sligachan. From there we will retrace our steps away back to the Isle of Skye and head over the Skye Bridge and back onto the mainland. So I hope you enjoy the concluding part of my visit to Skye and enjoy the next half hour.
Now we want to go and have a look at Trumpan Church, which has a bit of a tragic story to it, so we'll head up there. That's right in one of the northernmost points of the Isle of Skye, right out in one of the fingers, so let's head up there now. I'll tell you a wee story about that when we get there.
Here we are at Trumpan Church. It's never been satisfactorily dated, but it could have stood as long as the 1300s. This whole area was a thriving medieval township. Today the ruins stand surrounded by its graveyard, home to memorials covering a considerable period of time. This area is subject to a brutal guerrilla war between two clans, the MacLeods and MacDonalds. Originally a raiding party of MacLeods of Skye landed in the island of Beag. The resident MacDonalds took refuge in a cave on the south side of the island, but the raiding party lit a fire at the entrance to attempt to force them out. 395 MacDonalds were suffocated, the entire population of the island. But revenge came when the clan MacLeod landed at Ardmore Bay to the west of Trumpan here. During a Sunday service here, they blocked the door of the church. The thatched roof was set alight during a Sunday service. It was May 1578. Only one woman escaped to tell the tale and raise the alarm. So very much a bitter feud between the two clans, the MacLeods and the MacDonalds.
After Dunvegan and then Talisker. only thing I can tell you about Dunvegan Castle, it's been the seat of the MacLeods for 800 years. It's the oldest inhabited castle in Scotland and has been in the same family for all its time. And the castle began in the 12th century as a little thatched cottage. And it's a big, big castle now, so... not going to waste any more time. We're going to head to the Coral Beach and we'll zip the other now, okay?
We've came to Dunvegan, just past Dunvegan Castle, and carried on a single track road for about 3 miles, and this brings us to a place called the Coral Beach. I'll tell you a bit about that later. There's a signpost at the start of the walk. It's about a mile to the actual beach from the car park, so there's a sign back there explaining exactly what the coral is, so we'll have a wee look at that when we go back. I had actually hoped to put the drone up and let you see the Coral Beach, but it's just, the wind's unfortunately just too great at the moment and it won't allow it to go up, so you're just going to need to be content with the view from the GoPro. So that is the Coral Beach. It's a pity because that would have made a good view with the drone, but I just think it's too, fortunately it's too windy. Well, here's the coral here, made up of seashells and, yeah, I don't know, it does feel like coral, but seashells and whatever that is. So let's find out from the information sheet at the start of the walk. As you can see, fair expanse of it here. So here we are. The coral beaches here are formed from the bleached skeletons of red coralline seaweed, known internationally as marl, pronounced marl. Marl grows very slowly, around 1 mil per year. It's also very long lived, and with some marl beds thought to be around 8,000 years old. So marl only grows in places where there's a significant current, and it grows unattached and forms balls, which we saw when we picked that up. It's obviously it's also used by farmers for agricultural fertiliser. Okay, onwards and upwards. Let's head over back through Dunvegan again to our next port of call. In this road to Neist Point, we're going to pass a restaurant called the Three Chimneys. It's very, very famous in the Isle of Skye. Unfortunately, I've never eaten at it because the twice I've been up here and had the opportunity to eat in it, the tasting menu just wasn't appealing to me, but it has a very, very high reputation and well worth a visit if you ever come to the Isle of Skye, I believe. So we'll just pass that. And this is Neist Point, which you can see in the background, the lighthouse, which is now abandoned, and that lovely big rock in front of it. There's a path which you can actually take. The car park is just with that blue, the top of that roof is. You can come down here, you can follow the path round the edge of that cliff and it takes you down to the lighthouse. Unfortunately today I just don't have the time to do that. It's probably a good hour there and back, and I've got too many things to see, but you must admit it is a rather stunning view. I'm just watching that wee gentleman down here. He's a wee bit close to the cliff, but going to head to Sligachan now. The old hotel there. There's a monument to hill walkers. Okay, we're leaving Neist Point now. After that shot of the cliff and the lighthouse. So, ever try and pull the third of a ton Harley back? What stunning scenery. Well, the other thing is you need to watch on Isle of Skye is these sheep. I mean, they don't have a clue, they don't stay in fields. They seem to love just to munch away at the side of the roadside. Thing is, they don't bloody bother with cars and bikes. They obviously must see and hear so many of us that are just a distraction. See, there's more. You just need to watch that you don't come round a corner and find one sitting in the middle of the road smiling at you. No, don't really smile, but you know what I mean. Anyway, onward and upward. Roll web, living the dream. Welcome to Dunvegan. There is sheep walking around here. There is a steep walk of 300 metres to the monument. Please wear sensible footwear. I think I passed the test, so on we go. And that is Dunvegan up there. So, let's head up. One thing about sheep on Skye, there are more sheep in Skye than there are people, so that's why you keep seeing them in the roads. As per usual, in many of my expeditions, there is a climb involved. Still, probably well worth it by the time you get to the top. So this is Beag Broch. It's a kind of Iron Age stone tower. It's only found in Scotland. It's about 2,000 to 5,000 years old. You can see from the amount of rubble at the bottom. It was obviously a lot higher at one stage, and it's somewhat tumbled down. You can see the pieces here. So I don't know how high it was. It appears to have been occupied for quite a long period, because medieval and later coins were reportedly recovered from the site. So a whole range of rubble on all sides of the broch, even stretching away over there. So it seems to have an inner wall and an outer wall. Very ingenious. Maybe that was for insulation purposes. Brochs are among Scotland's most impressive prehistoric buildings. These stone roundhouses date from about 2,300 to 1,900 years ago and are found mainly in North and West Scotland. Now, I almost missed this in my haste, so the double-skinned dry stone walls support each other and make possibly a high building of relatively lightweight form. The roofing and interior structures of brochs are much debated. So, different levels. 2.5 miles to Talisker. Let's go for it.
So behind me you might see the Talisker Distillery, very famous for making the Talisker malt. Last time I was here was in 2012, and the Isle of Skye sits in a sort of position where, depending on how the North Atlantic winds happen, they can go through periods of drought. And a number of weeks before we came here in 2012, there was quite a period of drought here, which meant that there was no production in the whisky, which is quite unusual. Fortunately or unfortunately, the week that we were here on holiday, it rained, so production had started. I did the tour of the distillery. I think it's the only tour I've done of a whisky distillery. It was really quite interesting. So, the distillery behind me, Talisker Distillery, was actually built in 1831. It makes it about 90 years old. You can smell the malt from the making of the whisky from here. Oh, I just had to share that view with you as we're coming down to Sligachan. That road goes away down here, round and round and round, and we go way back up that way. So let's give it a wee go. Now that's what I call a cliff edge. That's pretty dramatic, that. I don't know where that is. Must get my bearings. But yeah, pretty definitive, isn't it? That mountain range there is called the Cuillins, or it's called the Black Cuillins. Very distinctive. I'll talk to you a wee bit more about them when we get to Sligachan. That seems to be the starting point of a lot of people stay at this hotel called Sligachan, and it's a great starting point for the Black Cuillins. There's two types of hills in Skye. One's called the Black Cuillins, which has got these jaggedy peaks, and the other one is the Red Cuillins, which is more of a rounded peak. I'll tell you a wee bit a bit later when we get to Sligachan. This is the Cuillins and all the finery. You can make out just under the cloud up there the jagged top and the various Munros. It's an epicentre for sort of Scottish mountaineering. Certainly not for the faint-hearted, certainly for the serious climber and mountaineer. That is known as the Black Cuillins. Now, I'm not up my geography, but that could be the Red Cuillins over there. You can see by their tops they're far more rounded, whereas the Black Cuillins is far more jagged edge. The Black Cuillin Hills, which you see in front of me, are over 11 kilometres long and above 3,000 feet in places. The ridge contains 11 Munros, and I'll tell you what Munros are later. The Black Cuillin Ridge was formed about 60 million years ago. It's all that remains of the eroded magma chamber of a huge volcano, comprised mainly of hard gabbro rock and smoother basalt. The ridge has been sculptured by glacial activity and weathering. So here's some interesting Skye facts. Skye has a population of 10,000, but it has 100,000 sheep, but you're probably not surprised at that as you
as we pass them on the road running through Skye. So there you go. Sheep outnumber people by 10 to 1 in Skye. So you'll see plenty of sheep if you come here. The island is actually about 50 miles long and 42 miles wide. So I don't know if you get, I mean, you'll have seen obviously the map, which I showed earlier on, but I don't know if you get an idea of sort of scale. And there's quite a bit of travelling involved in Skye once you actually start going in and out the roads. There's a sort of lot of fingers pointing up at the top of Skye, so you end up going up and down and up and down and up and down. So you fairly sort of quickly run up the mileages as far as riding the bike's concerned. Skye is made up of some dramatic scenery which sort of centres around a lot of volcanic activity about 65 million years ago, when I sort of read up on it. And what you actually also have is a very popular part of Skye is the Coolin Mountains, the Black Coolins, where a lot of people do a lot of climbing up there. I suppose the attraction of that is there is a number of various sort of jagged peaks up there, called, particularly the higher ones are called Munros. The actual Coolins extend for 7 miles, and there's 12 Munros within that. Now, a Munro is a hill which is over 3,000 feet, so that's the Coolins have 11 of these, and you get people who there's a lot of Munros in Scotland. Now, as well as having 11 Munros within the Coolin range, it also has 16 smaller peaks. So that makes 27 in total. You can go up and down and up and down an awful lot in the Coolins. The other thing is you'll get there's these Munros in Scotland over 3,000 feet. There's quite a quantity of them in Scotland, and people actually, it's a challenge, it's a Munro bagging challenge which people undertake to climb every Munro in Scotland. The only person I know that's done it is my brother-in-law, and I can't remember how many there are. There are a couple hundred anyway, so it's a lot of 3,000 peaks to go up and down and up and down and up and down. However, there are a lot of hearty people out there willing to give it a wee go. Not myself. My wife is, she likes climbing. So now at the Sligachan Hotel, where the serious mountaineers meet before they go their mountain walks. And that's the view from the hotel. Over here is what is known as the Sligachan Bridge. So the sculpture we see before us is of two climbing pioneers of the Coolin, Norman Colley and John Mackenzie. Norman Colley was an eminent scientist and well-travelled mountaineer. John Mackenzie was a local man from Sconser, a Gaelic speaker who was the first British mountain guide qualified in Alpine Standard. In early 2020, the money to build the sculpture was finally secured some 17 years after fundraising began. The sculpture was built with 90% private funding from people all over the world and was unveiled on the 25th of September 2020. My tour here in Skye is over, and what a lovely, lovely place. Totally, really recommend you visiting it. If you get it without the midges, it's highly midge, even better. And this is about my third or fourth visit to Skye, I can't remember, but after that, each time you come back, it's just as stunning.
to come to an end, and our trip here to Skye concludes now as we head from Sligachan back to the Isle of Skye and the Skye Bridge and back to the mainland.
Kilmuir Graveyard, we've been to Edinbane, we've been to Trumpan Church, we've been to Talisker, we've been to the Coral Beach. So many things to see. The only thing I would say about Skye was that you are very much dependent on the weather to get the best out of it, and if you can come in days like this, it's just a wonder. It can be fraught on the cold and wet days, but in days like this, it's part of Scotland that you really do need to see, and hopefully the tour has given some of you a wee appetite to see how nice this island is. Very busy in the summer with motorhomes and caravans, so don't expect you're going to have the place to yourself. Things are getting better, more car parks have been opened up, and it's a wee bit easier to leave the car in the motorhome, but it's still a very busy place in the summer. If you're lucky, the weather can be very good in April, and even in the latter part of summer and in September as well. But definitely a place. I've been to Skye now 3 times, and this is possibly the one I've gone round it in depth more so in doing the video log, but hopefully you've enjoyed it. The next adventure hopefully will be the North Coast 500, which I've put off since 2020 for a variety of different reasons, but and some others as well. So keep tuned, and I hope you like the videos, and please subscribe if you're interested at all in a Harley Davidson bike travelling around Scotland. So I'll talk to you soon then. See you later.